Welcome back to Finding Pharma, the channel that is always ahead of the curve. I'm David Tong, and I'm here to keep you up to date with the latest trend and developments in the pharma industry. I know a lot of you have aspirations to become an MSL. It is a very highly sought after role, does sit under the medical affairs function, and today we're going to debunk more myths about medical affairs and learn how AI will reshape roles and why you need to be prepared.
How would you explain the role of medical affairs to, a new entrant looking to get in? I know we've touched on a bit of drug discovery, bringing science into practice. Yeah, how would you explain?
I think probably historically, I might go back in time sometime during this interview, because I think it's always important to think about the history of everything we do to explain the present and also change the future. But if you think about the way companies were set up, many years ago when I started, it was really research and development and then sales and marketing and nothing in between. And there was a lot of gaps. Medical affairs, the first medical science liaison, which is a very fashionable role currently, David, the first one was established and documented in 1957 at Upjohn Pharmaceuticals. So it's been around for a while. Medical affairs came out really after probably the thalidomide disaster of 1957, because companies needed to be, really accountable for the medicines, the pharmacovigilance, and it's kind of spawned into something incredible over the last 5 or 10 years. I think to explain it to anybody that doesn't understand it, I suppose it is the role that fills that gap between organic research and development and clinical trials and the top end of commercialization, which is sales and marketing, because you've got a whole bunch of scientific critical milestones to get a drug from, the compound stage to the bedside, the bench to the bedside. We know there's a 10,000 to 1 rule, so 10,000 compounds that go through high throughput liquid chromatography and are registered as medicines to get into a patient, 10,000 to 1. And you've got a whole big gamut in between. And medical affairs, I think, has really been designed to fit in that space, to bring science to practice, to make successful commercialization decisions, and to make sure patients are brought in along the way. But you're working for a commercial entity as well. So the commercialization and that side of things, you need to recognize that you're moving, from clinician into the business of science. But medical affairs is evolving drastically. So if you ask me, probably even in 2 years, what medical affairs is probably going to change.
Yeah, ever evolving.
It
sounds like, it's sort of right at the heart of everything, because it's the link up between R&D.
I think one of the most important things to convey is that in any role within the pharmaceutical medtech sector, medical affairs have the most stakeholders. So we have external stakeholders, and probably have the most of them, but we also have the most internal stakeholders. And just like MedWise Consulting, our job is to make people really do awesome stuff and actually not take much of the credit for that. Medical affairs does the same, and it really works. You're working with the clinical trials teams, you're working with the regulatory affairs teams on TGA submissions, you're working with PBAC and health economics, market access, you're working with sales and marketing. You've got to create the best sales team, the best marketing messages, which are you're just keeping all these people happy. So it's not for everybody, but I love that, and I know my colleagues in medical affairs love this diverse stakeholder engagement that you need to maintain.
Lucky you're good at wearing multiple hats.
You need to be good at wearing multiple hats and not get stuck on one of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to take that real scientific hat off and put that reg hat on, or that sales hat on, or the marketing hat on. You need to put it on. You need to sit in their chair, walk in their shoes. To be the most effective medical affairs partner you can be.
Yeah, excellent. What are some common misconceptions about medical affairs that you'd like to discuss?
I think the first and most obvious one is that they're pseudo sales. And when you talk about the MSL, the medical science liaison, it is MSL, it's not MS cell. So
I love a good pun, sorry.
Well, okay, you've opened the Pandora's box of puns.
If you've laughed, learned, or just enjoying watching, smash that subscribe button so you never miss an update or a pun.
I think, but there's two misconceptions. There's a misconception that they're kind of like super sales, but then there's also a misconception that they're not partly sales, and they are, because you sell in science, everybody's selling something, you're trying to influence something. And so there's a whole misconception that medical affairs are sales, and sales are great. We don't need super sales because we've got super sales reps. And a lot of my fondest colleagues from sales have got as much science as I've got. They just love the sales side a bit more. But I suppose there's a big misconception is that, that role is just purely sales and promotion. It's not. But also you are there to make the commercial success of that product happen. And you need the influencing skills, and you need the ability to move people's thought processes and other things as well. So there's two similar, I suppose, diametrically opposed misconceptions. Yeah. And the answer is you're in the middle.
A very MACO, very balanced answer there, Matt. I like that.
Thanks.
There's one thing you alluded to earlier as well, breaking down the glass barriers of, if you're in sales, you can't move into medical. And you are the pioneer, trailblazer in terms of smashing you must have a PhD, you must be an MD to become an MSL. And I imagine in your time, it probably was even harder. Is that another kind of myth you'd like to define? Like to become an MSL?
Yeah, of course it is. Stuff. And I think, elephants in the room, I think and many of my colleagues, I've personally really tried to address. I think if glass ceilings were not meant to be smashed, they would have been built with steel or something like that. So I'm a big fan. Nobody ever was able to give me a really good, compelling scientific reason why you did need a medical degree to be a medical director as a mandate. It's great. And yes, if you've got all them other skills and a medical degree, so if you're the business leader, and you've got, that's cool. But does that give you the upper hand on a scientist or a pharmacist with all them things? Absolutely not. Do you need a PhD to be an MSL? No, it's good. It shows you've got, discipline, and you've got that ability to learn. And if you can put your PhD with all them other things, great. But it's about qualifications, not qualifications for me. And unless somebody can I'm a scientist, real scientist. So if somebody can't give me a scientific rationale, it's a bit like believing in ghosts or something like that. I'm not going to believe it. And then, when I put the MAPA group together, I got resistance because of my background, and that fuels me. Mm-hmm. But we also looked at, MSL roles and medical director roles. I think it was in 2022. We looked at all the job adverts that had come out that year versus 5 years ago. And that mandate in the vast majority of companies has completely been loosened to, scientific appropriate qualifications and backgrounds. I still think we need to do more of that.
Yeah.
And I also think that we need to also attract more scientists and doctors and various people in to our industry, because often we all just fall into this.
Yeah.
And I think it's been terribly arrogant for many years of certain people with very traditional mindsets, and I don't mind challenging them respectfully, that they're wrong.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, because there are a lot of us who unfortunately have been victims of that rule.
Yeah, so let's all just come together and address the elephant in the room. And I think we're getting there, particularly in Australia. You go to some other countries and it's years behind, but let's just deal with Australia first.
Yeah, that's it.
Curious about landing your first medical affairs job? Our next video is packed with tips to help you unlock your future. Click now.